All right. So let's deal with the sections one by one. And in fact, when it comes to the overall level of difficulty, we somehow feel that overall level of difficulty remained the same as that of last year. So now if you ask me to justify this, I would say that let's talk about English. Within English, there are two things, EU and reading comprehension, almost to an extent of 50%. I mean, each one of them contributes to an extent of 50% to the entire section, right? So last year, reading comprehension was more difficult in comparison with this year, and this year English usage is more difficult. All right, so overall it gets balanced. So English has remained at the same place. But when you look at quantitative aptitude, in quantitative aptitude, the difficulty level has definitely gone up if I compare it with quantitative aptitude of XAT'15. So quantitative aptitude is more difficult, English is at par, and decision making is slightly easier. So overall, I would say that overall the paper, the cutoffs and everything would remain more or less at the same level as that of last year. So let's start discussing questions one by one. And in fact, here I have some more people with me. Soumya, are you there? We have Soumya, Gautam, and Tarun Malik as co-panelists. So within verbal ability section, overall level of difficulty, as I told you earlier, is same as that of last year. Reading comprehension, overall level of difficulty and the time taken to solve the questions are reduced. And in fact, if you look at a couple of passages, so you never needed to regress. Straight away, you could finish reading the question and you could do all the questions. For example, this passage which starts with alone. He was alone again. So initially, it feels that it would be very philosophical, but when you finish reading it, then you realize that it's very factual, and especially when you start reading the questions, you feel that all the questions are factual. In fact, look at the questions. How was the protagonist planning to resolve his problem? So this is very clearly given that he was trying to exchange places with the dead person. So here, I would say that, and in fact, and this was the case with more or less all the passages. This was the case more or less with all the passages. But when you look at the parajumbles. So there were two questions on parajumbles, and at least one of them, at least one of these two is certainly very difficult, and other one is from moderate to difficult level. So now when you look at vocabulary, apart from one question where they asked you which of the following is not a term of disapproval, so many people who have read this book, Word Power Made Easy, they know the difference between childlike and childish. So childish is a term of disapproval, and childlike is something, I mean, if you have innocence of a child, right? So, or maybe in other aspects, if you have any positive attribute of a child, right, that is called childlike. So apart from this question, for rest of the questions, one, you needed to know at least 3 or 4 words, and 2, you needed to know how to put them and where to put them properly. So level of vocab, all the vocab based questions last year, they were features, but this year, they're definitely much more difficult in comparison with those of last year. Am I audible to people? I would expect many of the participants to punch in their responses. Well, someone is asking me, when will the answer key be available? Solutions might take a bit of time, but when it comes to answer key, kindly go to our website and fill your responses in our score calculator. Go to our website and fill your responses in our score calculator. And my promise is that by the time we finish this webinar, you should be able to get your scores. Or we might take maybe 30 more minutes. It's 6:50 latest, by 8 o'clock you should be able to get your scores. Is that clear to you? All right. So when it comes to para completion, as I have written here, like previous year, para completion questions are of moderate level of difficulty. So, and vocabulary, I think I've already spoken to you about this. Now let's come to DM. So overall, the section is slightly easier than last year, and I'll give you the reasons also. First of all, most of the sets made you read slightly less in comparison with last year. Last year, most of the passages, they were quite lengthy, and in fact, there was one particular set, if my memory serves me right, based on iPhone and other things, made you read 2 pages, but there was absolutely no set like that this year. So you had to read less. Of course, there were 3 or 4 questions which were slightly ambiguous. So barring those 3 to 4 questions, I would say rest of the questions were fairly doable. In fact, not less than 6 to 7 questions could have been done in a single attempt without even reading all the options. And when it comes to last year, you had at least some sets of LR which were very difficult to do. All right, and this year, first of all, the name of LR, you had just one question which was based on set theory, some simple application of set theory, that too only of 3 sets, not of 4 sets, right? But of course, I must concede that the way they have presented this set theory question is very different. So not many people, by look of it, would be able to realize that this set of questions was based on some simple application of 3 sets in set theory. And in fact, it would take you to read some 6 to 7 lines, but many of my students whom I spoke with, so they did not even read it. And in fact, when I asked them that how was this set theory question, so their answer was that, where was that? Was it there? So set theory set was of moderate level of difficulty, but it will take people some effort to realize this, that the difficulty level was moderate. And beyond set theory question, when it comes to remaining 21 questions, I would say at least 7 to 8 of them were very simple, and 4 or 5 of them were ambiguous, and rest of them seemed to be okay. Let's come to quantitative ability. So as we have already said that QA was more difficult than last year, than that of last year. And I would say that this is an understatement. So when it comes to getting easy questions, so total number of easy questions was certainly not more than 5 to 6. And in fact, it was not that easy to find these easy questions. So all these easy questions were very brilliantly camouflaged between difficult ones. So, and 8 to 9 questions were very difficult. The very fact that as many as 21 out of 33 questions had none of the above as the last option, right, tells you a lot about the difficulty level of this section. So first of all, most of the questions made you read a lot. 2, even the options were tricky. And in fact, in one particular question, I got badly stumped myself. This question was related to number of 3-digit numbers, where all the digits were in strictly descending order. So I very fast, I calculated there were 5 such numbers, right? I put 510, 620, 730, 840, 950, but forgot to put 910, and thus could not get the right answer. Similarly, when you look at one particular question, which is based on a parabola, a graph is given, and in the graph, you can see a parabola. So most of the people went for option D because they somehow realized that from north to south, you have x-axis, and from west to east, you have y-axis. From west to east, you have x-axis. Whereas in the question, they had in fact interchanged x and y-axis. And which is why many people, they mark D as the answer, whereas the correct answer would be E. So overall, I would say that all the negative things were there for you in the paper. Questions were lengthy, options were tricky, and number of easy questions was not more than 5 or 6. And one of the DI sets was so very calculation intensive that many people, after attempting a question or 2, they just moved on. They left the remaining 2 to 3 questions. Now, of course, many of you must be aware of this BML Munjal University, which has come up in Manesar near Gurgaon. And one of the unique features of this is that there is one particular program which is one of its kind in India, and that is a business management program in business analytics. And not only that, if you look at the group behind this, you have the largest manufacturer of two-wheelers in the world behind this, Hero Motocorp. And the institute which has helped set IIT Delhi is also behind this. That is Oriental College London. So all those people who have got more than 50% in graduation can definitely try this BML Munjal University School of Management. Someone is asking me if QA cutoff should come down compared to the last year. Yes, slightly, definitely. There would not be much of change though, because the entire paper is so very difficult. Overall, if you ask me about the difficulty level of XAT 2014 or in general XAT 2015, 2014 or in general XAT papers, I would say that it's most of the time fairly high. So keeping that in mind, I would say that whether you have 6 easy questions or 10 easy questions, right, it does not actually make much of a difference, because most of the students, they're not able to get all the easy questions, even if there are more than 10 or 12. So though if you ask me, difficulty level of quantitative aptitude section in comparison with XAT 14 went up by not less than 20 to 30%, but when it comes to the cutoff, so there would not be much of difference in the cutoff. So let's come to the most important slide. So we feel that for getting a call for BM from XLRI, in order to score 80 percentile in verbal ability, you should be scoring 8.75 to 9. As was the case last year. In decision making, it has gone slightly up. Last year it was 8.25. This year, we somehow guessed that it should be 8.5. And please bear in mind that unlike many IIMs for XLRI, BM as well as PMIR program, the sectional cutoffs are not very high. All right, so you should be able to clear cutoff for BM for 8.75 and for HRM, which is basically PMIR program. I'm sorry for this HRM written here. So that is 85 percentile, and you should be able to score 85 percentile at 9.5. Similarly, in DM section, if you're scoring, and in fact, we have put 8.5 here, but even if someone has scored 7.5 to 8, I somehow feel that that person should be able to score 80 percentile. And when it comes to quantitative aptitude, so last year the cutoff was 9. So this year we feel that the cutoff should not be more than 8.25. And in fact, it can be slightly lower also. And when it comes to, am I audible to all of you? All right. And when it comes to overall cutoff, so we feel that if you are scoring in the vicinity of 20 to 29, you should easily be scoring close to 94 to 96 percentile. So people scoring in the range in terms of absolute score, if they are scoring 28 to 29, they should be able to score 94 to 96 percentile, which should be sufficient to give them both BM as well as PMIR calls. And if you're getting these two calls, I do not think that I need to say that you would certainly be getting calls from SP, GEN, XIMB, and GIM as well. So let's stay on this slide for some time, and let me remind you that our answer key is ready. So all of you need to visit our website and just punch in all your responses in score calculator. Kindly punch in your responses in score calculator. So someone is asking, last year XIMB quant cutoff was 5. Will it go down this year? Certainly, but at level of 5, even if it goes down by 10%, right, it will come to 4.5. So 4.5 to 5 should be a safe score for getting a call from XIMB in quantitative aptitude. Someone is asking me the overall cutoff for IMT, that should be around 24-25. You should be able to get a call from IMT at an overall score of 24-25, and in case of IMT, there would not be sectional cutoff. So sectional cutoffs would not be applicable for IMT. So yes, coming back to this, so overall we feel that if you're scoring 28 to 29, you should be scoring in the vicinity of 94 to 96 percentile and should easily be getting all the calls. And those people who are interested in knowing about the 99 percentile score, so we at CL Educate feel that those people scoring in the vicinity of 32 net should be scoring in the vicinity of 99 percentile. So before we end the presentation, we shall certainly be sharing the EOMR. Basically, we are not calling that EOMR, we are calling that score calculator. Then there is this question, should a high score in GK be helpful in getting a good percentile? No. Your GK score or your performance in essay would play absolutely no role in deciding your percentile. Please bear in mind that your GK score and your performance in essay will only get counted once you get a call. They would not have any role to play in your percentile. Once you get a call for GDPI for the next stage, for the next round, then along with your percentile score and your performance interview, they would be looking at your performance in GK as well as the essay. XAT UMR and answer key is available at this place. Just go to our exam corner and find the name. Is that all right? So I would come back to the slide telling you about the cutoff. So of the prominent universities, just one is missing, that is IMT, and we feel that for IMT it should be in the vicinity of 24-25 overall, no sectional cutoffs. All right, so this is all what we have to say, and we wish you all the best for your test net and other forthcoming examinations. All the best. Thank you. All right, someone is asking me about the difficulty level of GK. So we at CL Educate feel that first of all, GK was a mixed bag. There were questions from current affairs, there were questions based on business, and there were questions from static general knowledge too. And someone scoring in the vicinity of 5 to 6 would have done good. And in fact, there were many questions which needed you to know not one fact, but at least 3 to 4 facts. Like there is one question which is based on countries and capitals, and very intentionally they have given India among the countries and DILLI, Delhi, among the capitals. So many people, they tended to mark India and Delhi, but Delhi is capital of Timor, East Timor. So I would say the difficulty level of GK was not much different from overall difficulty level of the aptitude section of the test. So it was fairly difficult. GK section was also fairly difficult. All right, I would still stay here for some more time so that you can power in your questions. And it was announced at most of the centers that XAT results should be out by last week of January. All right, thank you. And yes, there is another announcement. So all the people who are waiting for the EOMR or score calculator may have to wait for at the most 30 more minutes. So please wait for 30 more minutes and then your score should be visible to you.